Board of Education policy determines or states that we must notify our public if we have any individual who signed up to speak to the Board of Education. We have two here this evening that have signed up to speak. The first one will be Mr. Marcus Heinzman, and he will be speaking to us about a school bus issue. The other will be Miss Amy Bell. She will be speaking to us about the demographic study and enrollment. Both will have 3 minutes to speak to those issues, and our board clerk, deputy clerk, will be timing those individuals and will notify them at the time when they have about 30 seconds left so that they do have the time to complete their comments. That will take place during the public comment section on the agenda, which is item number 6. Call the meeting to order.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Allen? Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, moment of silence, which will be led by the board clerk.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Madison Bennett, a fifth grade student at Creekwood Elementary School.
Please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now to the Oklahoma flag. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma, a symbol of peace, unite all people. Thank you. You may be seated. My speech.
I got a long.
Good evening, Dr. Mendenhall, Madam Board President, and board members. My name is Madison Bennett. I'm a fifth grader at Creekwood Elementary. One thing I like about our school is the lockers. At our old school, Westwood, a teacher would have us put all of our things on our desk. Some desks would overflow with all of our books. Now with the lockers, we can keep our books in place. Another thing I love is the school is much bigger. We have a bigger and better playground. The gym is amazing. We have a full basketball court, goals, and a stage. At Westwood, our old basketball goals were just like the ones that you would have at home. The gym at Westwood was where we ate lunch. The stage is really cool, and we have a bigger and better sound system. The music room is really just the same, just a bigger walk-in closet. The art room is much better because Mr. Lyle has a walk-in kiln in his room. I also like that at Creekwood we strive to be a great expectation school. I think the best part about Creekwood is how awesome the teachers are and how awesome Miss Green is to the school. Thank you.
Next item up is the formal adoption of the agenda. There were no issues that were brought forward.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to formally adopt the agenda. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of August the 11th, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the August 11th, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item are the comments from the public. The first person that we will have speaking is Mr. Marcus Heinzman. If you will just come up to the podium, sir, you can begin your comments, and we will begin timing you when you start.
Thank you very much. My name is Marcus Heinzman. I'm here to address the issue about the school bus that's dropping 5, 6, 7, 9, and I think one 10-year-old kid off on a 5-lane road, and they're having to walk up to 9 blocks. And we have 2 other buses that run in there, and a driver that started last year run into a bridge on this 114th Street. I've been to talk to Ted Burke. I've talked to him twice. He went out and run the route, said he didn't have no problem with it, but the driver refuses to go down this street, so she just started last year dropping the children off down there. I told the parents last year, excuse me, that those children don't need to be dropped off that far from home on a busy street like that with the crime and days and time. It's just too dangerous. And Mr. Burke told me that the driver has never had an accident, but when you run into a bridge twice and tear up 2 tires, I would consider that an accident. I also think if she's not capable of running the route, that she needs to be removed and have another driver put on it. But they refuse to do it. So I have talked to David Haynes, which is the head man over the school buses, and they said that they would make some changes, but they haven't. So I'm here to address the school board to try to get this resolved so I don't have to go further, because I don't want my grandkids being picked up by some molester or being run over by somebody on a 5-lane road. Excuse me. And I think the same thing for my neighbors. So that's all I got to say about it. I just want your help.
Could you give us the location again? You said 114?
114th, it's on the Wagner County side off County Road, County Line Road.
Okay.
There's a bridge there. It is a kind of sharp turn, but they've been school buses I know for 10 years going in and out of there, because I've lived there for 10 years myself. And if they can make it, why can't this one driver make it, you know?
Mr. Heinman, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
The next person, Miss Amy Bell.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amy Bell, and I am coming to you guys this evening as a concerned parent with some questions over the demographic study and enrollment projections that were done in 2011 and 2014. Just a little bit of background. I have 2 students in the school district. I have a 3rd who will be in the school district. And in reviewing the information, given my background is in marketing, so I've reviewed both reports. I just did a small SWOT analysis. Now, the way that I was trained to do a SWOT analysis is that strengths and weaknesses are internal and controllable, and then opportunities and threats are external and uncontrollable. So on the paper that I have submitted, those are marked either strengths, weaknesses, or opportunities or threats. In reviewing the information, the district has a lot of opportunities, which are great because those are uncontrollable and things that are positive for the district. There are some things that I won't go into given the time, but that could be considered weaknesses as far as the projections for growth and the amount of schools that we have in square footage per student and the amount of growth projected within the next 10 to 15 years. So my questions are, and I have attached those as well, why did we pay for the demographic study and enrollment projections that we did? Who's responsible in reviewing the information contained in the demographic study and then make the recommendations based upon the report that was provided? And then I have a visual that I have also attached. If we follow the mindset that one high school serves our district best, then it stands to reason that if we look at this flow chart versus this flow chart, which this shows one high school, one freshman academy, one middle school, and 2 elementary schools versus this. So we have a bottleneck at the top, I believe. And then my last question is, does the school bond proposal for 2015 include plans for a second high school? So those are the questions that I have. And I've left my contact information on the paperwork.
Thank you, Ms. Bell, very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, Ms. Bell, did you leave all of that information with us?
Yes,
Okay,
I
you've
did.
got
Got it right
Okay.
here. Next item on the agenda are the reports to the board, the first one being the monthly construction report.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. In Ms. Bergwall's absence, I will give the monthly construction report this evening. Let's see if I can simulate her. Stuff here.
All I know is if the tech guy can't do it, we,
Yeah.
no pressure.
All right. From the phone. See if we can do this. Okay, we're going to talk about today in this report the high school, our indoor practice facility, the turf fields, also at the freshman academy, and transportation and maintenance facility. Starting at the high school, the indoor practice facility is now complete. We do have occupancy, and the students have started to use the facility. We have also bid the additional flooring for the weight room area that is on the agenda for approval later tonight. And as you can see some of the pictures, here's the original rendering of the indoor facility, which looks identical to what you see out there now. Here is a updated photo of the actual facility on the outside. Here is a nice aerial shot of the indoor facility next to the multi-purpose facility, and a good view of the new turf at the stadium. Here's a collage of the inside of the indoor. You can see they have the end zone done. The lines and numbers marked. The turf's down. Mimics the turf in the actual stadium pretty well. We'll move on to the turf fields. As I said, the indoor field is complete and in use. The track and field is complete and also in use. The freshman academy football field will be complete the middle of the week, this week, probably around Wednesday, and then it will be ready for use. So that'll be exciting for those players at the ninth grade academy. They are working on the baseball field at the high school as we speak. The installation of the turf hasn't started yet. However, they are doing the drainage portion right now. So the pipes have been installed and the drainage rock. And once that goes in, the turf can then begin on the baseball facility. So here's a few photos of, here's Freshman Academy. I got to get that correct, don't I? Freshman Academy turf, same logo as you see at the high school. Looks real good. And again, it'll be ready middle of the week. Transportation and maintenance. We'll move on to that. Bus parking lot is complete, and they are using it. The employee parking has the base coat of asphalt down. We are experiencing some groundwater issues out there, and we'll need to resolve that before we do finish the paving. If we move on to maintenance, the foundations have started at a maintenance building. And again, we must resolve the groundwater issues before the building can continue out there at maintenance. We do have an engineer that is determining a solution at this time for that. And here's some photos of that parking area at transportation and maintenance. And again, it's a great day to be a Tiger.
Any comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Daly.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Broken Arrow Education Association report. Ms. Katie Cook.
Good evening. It's been a while since I've gotten to present to you guys. We had a very successful negotiations with the district, and the teachers, certified staff have recently ratified the proposed contract with a vote of 301 yes to 11 no. So we just wanted to present that to you guys tonight. So.
Thank you very much. I certainly want to congratulate you as a member of the association, probably negotiations team, and Mr. Dwayne Thompson and those that served on the administrative team as well. I know that it takes a lot of effort to reach an agreement and to instill the kind of communication that we want to have within our district. So thank you very much for a successful conclusion. Next item on the agenda is the general consent agenda, items 9 through 29.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the general consent agenda items 9 through 29. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, under Superintendent Board of Education Communications, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, President Kelly, members of the board, tonight I want to share with you a pretty exciting project called Impact Tulsa. Impact Tulsa is a consortium that was actually developed and spearheaded through the Tulsa Regional Chamber. And this organization's goal is to improve and help drive student achievement through leveraging data. And what I mean by that is what their plan is to begin to gather data from different school districts across the county and become very, very aware of that data so that they can help in some way, whether it's through business, nonprofits, philanthropy, faith-based communities, because we know that there's funding and there's grant opportunities out there. And one of the things that we feel like we could do is better leverage that data so that we could get help. The shared benefits from the development of Impact Tulsa, achievement of better outcomes for children and youth and their families in the Tulsa area, improvement in the quality of life for Tulsa area citizens with a direct impact on community and workforce. Number 3, expansion of cross-sector collaboration to ensure all children and youth are well prepared for life. And then the 4th is a committed a commitment to a shared vision for what is called Cradle to Career initiatives. I know this is a lot to kind of take in, but the Memorandum of Understanding is basically a draft of how Impact Tulsa could help us by looking at not only Broken Arrow data, but also other data that could help us provide programs and things that we need for our district. For instance, let me kind of tell you the groups that will be involved. It will be Broken Arrow Public Schools, if you approve tonight, Owasso, Jinx, Union, Sand Springs, Tulsa Public Schools, I believe Sperry, Oologah, and I know I'm missing some people. But it's those school districts that actually touch our county in Tulsa County. I know that parts of our area touch the Wagner County as well, but they have felt strongly that by utilizing the data that could help writing grants and doing those kinds of things to receive funding. The other thing that we have all talked about feverishly is the A through F grading system that we have all been pretty negative about in our state. This also would provide us a kind of a benchmarking process that we would be able to look at all students in the Tulsa County area, not just Union students or not just Jinx students or not just Broken Arrow students, but it's looking at all students in the area. So we feel strongly that from the superintendents in those districts as well as a lot of the regional chambers that this is something that's been well overdue and something that we really are excited about. Another city that has done this and done it well is Cincinnati, Ohio has done this and feel very strongly that they've been able to leverage their data to be able to get grant funding for different schools. So kind of an exciting situation, but also wanted to try to explain it to you, but also maybe answer questions that you might have. So I'll entertain any questions or comments that you guys may have at this time.
Dr. Mendenhall, I would like to say that we as a board did attend the Impact Tulsa meeting at the Owasso Technology Center, and it was absolutely, it was very exciting to see business leaders and education people come together. And I think the main crux of what's going to come from this is that we will all be working from the same data to tell the story in the Tulsa region, and we'll be using actual real live data that's useful, not something that is not useful as we've seen over the last several years. So I think, again, the business partners, business community being a part of that is vital to public education and our continued movement towards greater cooperation and success as a whole. So I certainly support this Impact Tulsa and believe it's the right thing to do for certainly public education in our community.
The one thing I might mention too is the data, we will apply or, be under the auspice of the FERPA Act of 1974. Want to make sure that you know that so that we don't feel like our data is being scrubbed or looked at by other entities or being given to other entities that should not appropriately have that. So wanted to make sure that is made clear because we will be sharing everything from kindergarten data all the way up through our end of instruction data with this group. So a lot of our assessment coordinators and directors in our districts will be sharing this information. And so the only other thing that I would say is that there's a lot of opportunity for best practice through this process too. I think sometimes we, as collaborative as we are, sometimes we save the very best things that we do in our schools and don't share that. So I think that does give us an opportunity to potentially share best practice as well. So
Any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
I recommend a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the memorandum of understanding between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Impact Tulsa to develop a framework for cooperation and to work within a collaborative relationship to improve student achievement throughout the region of Tulsa. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Madam President, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Fager first to make some introductions, and then we'll proceed from there. So if you would, please.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Foster with School Perception. School Perception ran on that survey that we ran last spring. He's going to be here tonight. Can you update us on something, Frank?
Thank you. So thanks for having me tonight. My name is Bill Foster. I'm the president and founder of a company called School Perceptions, and we're actually in the business of collecting data. In fact, our mission is to gather data to help educational leaders make strategic decisions. So we do a lot of surveys. We do surveys throughout the United States. I think this is actually my 61st board meeting. I've been at this year, so it's kind of what I do. And it's fun, and it's fun to gather data to try to help districts improve. We do a lot of student surveys, staff surveys, community-wide surveys, and in this case, we did a staff survey. So tonight, I'm going to go through the staff results. If I click. Nope. So the construction of the survey, the one we did with our staff, was actually a hybrid. And what we do with our system is we have some questions we call master questions that we use in similar districts throughout the United States. That allows us to compare your data to other districts. We also had a goal to establish a baseline. And so we have some questions that are unique to Broken Arrow. We don't have comparisons, but the intention is to do this on an ongoing basis to say, are we able to deploy initiatives to actually improve, or are we slipping? So down the road, we'll have data to do that as well. The survey was conducted in May. Primarily, it was done electronically by email. Our system makes sure it allows everyone to take the survey once, but no one can take the survey multiple times to make sure we have data integrity. For those who don't have access to the internet, we provided a paper survey, and we had 114 people take the survey, or staff members take the survey via paper. In total, we had 1,507 respondents. That provides us with a margin of error of about plus or minus 2.6%, and overall it was 64% of the respondents. Typically, we average about 70, so it's right in that range. And I always say, if your results are a little bit lower, typically people that have an issue or something they really want to get out, your response rate goes up. So by having a slightly lower response rate, it's an indication that generally people are pretty happy, and we're going to find that that is in fact the case. And in general, kind of what's the major takeaway? The Broken Arrow schools really scored above similar schools in just about all areas. So you're not perfect, but you're doing pretty darn well. So that's kind of the high level. So who took the survey? We had 53% of our respondents were teachers, 21% support staff, and then we had our paraprofessionals, 9%, and I can't see with my glasses, and I have to take those off. Other certified staff and administrators, 9%, 6%, and 2% were other. We asked one question around professional development. Professional development is very important to the district, and this is the mode of professional development. And the two areas that tested the highest were attending workshops and conferences and collaborative work with colleagues. That's a good sign that the staff likes to work together. And by the way, in this particular one, respondents could pick all that apply, and that's why they don't add up to 100%. On the bottom list, book study groups, external and internal webinars, and district-hosted on-site university courses were not as popular. So the survey was organized into sections, and the first section was called Overall Engagement. And let me just explain, you're going to see a lot of slides that look like this. And so the first, where you see item, that's a question or the statement that we made. Then we group strongly agree and agree. And you can see the first item was 95% either strongly agreed or agreed. And then we have an average. You might say, well, what's that average all about? And the answer is, well, that helps us do these comparisons. So what we do is we create a simple average based on strongly agree as a 5, agree as a 4, disagree as a 2, and strongly disagree as a 1. So therefore, if everybody who took the survey would have said strongly agree, it'd be a 5.0. So on the first item, you can see I understand how my work directly contributes to the overall success of our district. It was a 4.41. And then the last item, or last column, is a variance from similar schools. So it puts the data into context, and you can see we were 0.03 below your similar school average, which then leads to the question, what is significant? And the answer is it's about 0.2. So we developed a color coding scheme that said green is good. So if you're significantly above your similar school average, it's green. If you're below, it's red. So if you see a red one, that's bad. Green is good. So on this first slide, you can see there's 2 areas where you really tested significantly above your peer group. It would take a lot to get me to leave the district, and I would recommend the district to others seeking employment. And then if there's an NA, that's either an area that was developed that was unique to Broken Arrow, or we just didn't have significant data or such enough data to create that comparison. And the board can see this, so I won't go through and read each and every one. I hope the group out here can. Next area was work environment. And this is actually the only area where the district scored significantly below your peer group. It was the first one. I have been given the materials and supplies I need to do my job effectively. Only 70% either, or maybe you could say, well, it's still good, 70%, but 70% either strongly agreed or agreed, an average of 3.52, and you were below the similar school average. And that is, it really varies from school to school. So I know one of the things that the administrative team is doing is going through and saying, let's dig into that and find out exactly what's the cause. And it's probably different from school to school. The other area where you tested above your peer group was the amount of work I'm asked to do is reasonable. You're actually just at 0.22, which is significantly above your comparison. The next section that we tested was communication. So this is a little bit different. We started out with how important is this item to you? And so these are ranked in relative importance, very important to not important. And so the highest tested was email. And this is actually has 2 slides, I believe. I was giving Dr. Menel hard time this morning because he was on the bottom of the list. There's actually...
It makes me feel really good. They don't like to have coffee with me, obviously.
Coffee. But there's actually 2 slides
Actually,
here.
I can sleep in now. So.
There's actually 2 slides here, and he was actually in the middle. So the bottom is actually Twitter. Twitter didn't test real well at 1.36, and the Broken Arrow TV channel 20. Are we on that tonight? That's not real popular either in terms of importance. This is for the staff, though. This isn't necessarily for the parents or the community. And then how effective is this communication? And it could be great, good, fair, poor. And the email is the most effective way to communicate with the staff. School messenger tested second. Conversation with supervisors were important. And again, the bottom list, we had Twitter is not that effective. Topic-specific materials, A to F, grading system, financial report, and the Broken Arrow Public School Strategic Plan was not that effective either, but that's kind of a high-level plan. It's not ongoing day-to-day communication. And then we did have some statements that we tested in the area of communication. And you can see you're above your peer group, and the one that tested significantly above is I am kept informed about matters important to my work, which is really a credit to the district, especially given you're a larger district than many that we work with. And if you can keep that going, that's very, very good and very critical. And this was a question we asked on just in terms of what is our staff using email accounts. 98% are using email accounts. And you can see down 59% are using Facebook. 15% are on Twitter, and 11% LinkedIn. Okay, then we're transitioned over to the topic of culture. Now we're back to that agreement scale. And this is really culture within the school as well as culture within the district. And you can see the areas that tested really well. Our schools can be described as good places to learn, and our school department operates as a team. The next topic was development and recognition, which is highly correlated to staff satisfaction and engagement. And you can see again, we tested above our peer group. I received credit and recognition when I do a good job, and I receive feedback that helps me improve my performance, 0.25%. And again, some of these are baseline. The teacher leader effectiveness model, the TLE, is effective. That's unique to Broken Arrow. We don't have data on that, but we'll measure again and let you know how we're doing. We got up to continuous improvement. And again, this is an important one where you scored above your peer group. Our district has a culture of open dialogue around difficult issues. We were at 65%. You say, well, that's low, and that could be better, and arguably should be better, but it was still better than other districts that are similar size and in similar socioeconomic settings. I do believe that is a place where you could focus efforts and try to raise that, though, even more. So then we actually get into somewhat of they're not really evaluation questions, but we asked for feedback on site administration, district administration, and even the school board was evaluated in this survey. So on the site level, again, in general, this is from a district view, you scored and tested above your similar school average. My site administrator and supervisor is consistent when administrating policies concerning employees, and my site administration supervisor is doing what it takes to make my school and district successful. Then we get up to the district administration. In the district administration, we had 3 that we didn't have comparables for, and the one we did, we were just slightly better. The district administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful. And the school board, how is the school board doing? They're doing pretty well. The board appropriately balances the mission of the district with fiscal responsibility. Here the board was significantly above your peer group, and you can see in all 3 of those you were at 90%, which, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of school board presentations, and I was at one last Monday night, and the strongly agrees and agrees were down around 30% to the board. This is a funner meeting to come to. I'm just the data guy, but some are more fun than others. This is a better meeting.
That's good, man.
So the next question had to do with planning, and this was a prioritization exercise. And by the way, we're considering something similar with our parents somewhere in this year. And we would ask a similar question: to provide a quality education for all students, please check up to 5 of the planning priorities you believe Broken Arrow should address over the next 5 years. And again, from a staff perspective, they couldn't pick them all, but the areas that tested the highest was enhancing classroom technology, recruiting and retaining high-quality staff is important, developing new and innovative programs to improve student learning, and providing training development opportunities to enhance student skills. And then I mentioned really anytime you make a list, there's the top of the list and the bottom list. It's not to say these things in the bottom aren't important, just in relative terms they're less important, or you're already doing a good job there, so it's not an area to focus, and those are increasing co-curricular opportunities and increasing number of advanced placement or honors courses. Did not test as well with the staff. We did collect a lot of comments, and the major themes had to do with suggestions to improve internal communication. Although it's pretty good, there's a lot of ideas how things could be done better. Staff members mentioned the need to update technology and technology training. So 2 different kind of buckets. One is the actual technology, and then once I get it, how do I use it? Teachers requested additional classroom resources. I think we saw that as another area where you tested lower on the quantitative side. These were qualitative comments that had to do with providing additional resources. And it does kind of vary school to school. Staff members would like more meaningful training and professional development opportunities in general. The staff felt that by increasing compensation, it would help recruit and retain a high-quality staff. And staff members commented on the importance of having everyone involved when making decisions. So back to this collaboration theme where you're actually a bit better than your comparison group, but definitely a leverage point to work on and to improve. And then there were a lot of comments about strengths of the district, and then generally the staff really likes the district. They've got ideas how to improve it, but they like the district. So we actually quantified that, and we asked the question, or made the statement, overall, the Broken Arrow School District has improved over the past year. When I look at this, I don't know if I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, but I usually group the disagree and strongly disagree. You can see 14% of our staff either disagreed or strongly disagreed with that statement, and everybody else was either strongly agreeing. We did have 10% that didn't know, and maybe those are people that weren't here last year, or maybe they didn't know. And then we also asked, how would you rate the Broken Arrow School District with other Tulsa area public schools? From a staff perspective, only 5% said we're either worse or much worse. So very, very positive feedback from the staff. And that is it. Any questions from the board?
A lot of good information, certainly, and I certainly like the way that it was presented.
Thank you.
It's very easy to follow, and certainly will provide staff, the administration, and certainly us as a board an opportunity, and that's what we want to do, is to continue to improve.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda has to do with the Memorandum of Understanding, and it is Ms. Summers who will be coming to the podium.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, and Dr. Mendenhall. I bring to you for approval this evening a proposal that would enter Broken Arrow Public Schools into a Memorandum of Understanding with Volunteer Tulsa for $1,000. Broken Arrow Public School does not currently have a comprehensive multidimensional resource that accurately tracks volunteerism and then performs the analytics on that data. We've relied on a somewhat antiquated method of tracking or logging information into spreadsheets and then trying to sort out the data into useful reports, which is extremely time consuming and a lot of integrity loss in the data when we're doing it by hand like that. This solution will save time and money, it will generate more resources, and it will aggregate the data for us to provide valuable insights and help improve the volunteer programs in our schools. And should the district ever decide to move toward a more sophisticated constituent management database, that data would actually transfer into something a little bit better and all-inclusive. Ironically, capturing accurate volunteer data is important to the district because it allows us to demonstrate to our current community partners and our investors that the economic impact that our volunteers are making on our students are really enhancing the educational experience that they have here at Broken Arrow Public Schools. And it also shows both current and potential investors or donors. I think we mentioned earlier when we are writing grants, asking foundations for money, it shows those individuals that we are good stewards with the resources that they do give us, and then they're usually more inclined to donate because we are able to build capacity without actually spending a lot of money. And so that fiscal responsibility speaks very highly. Other benefits include access to web-based and cloud-supported volunteer database management system. Internal and external marketing opportunities will be pushed out to current volunteers, parents, anybody who is part of this system or has an online profile will actually be able to see what's going on in Broken Arrow and the opportunities that exist within our schools. Professional training and development is actually free. It's included in the cost, rather. And then it has a great volunteer service scheduler, which we have about 27 volunteer chairmen from all of our sites. And they do PTA carnivals, and they schedule test monitors, and they work very closely with the principals and see what the needs are in the schools. And so this scheduler would really allow for those chairmen at the sites to get that information pushed out to the public and schedule individuals to help the students. And our students, actually, we're really focusing on volunteer service with our high school kids and encouraging them to get out there and volunteer. And everyone who signs up with Volunteer Tulsa can create a profile, and so our students can track their volunteer service as well. That helps them when they apply for scholarships or apply for college entry. And this system, just lastly, it's got a great return on investment because it provides an accurate, user-friendly tool for volunteers to use and for those volunteer coordinators to use. And allows us to measure the impact on our kids while we're building capacity and making things even better for them and their site principals and staff. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. Since if this is approved and pushing the information out to our community, to our individuals who would potentially use this, how would we ensure that we get as much participation as we can through this, since it will be a change?
Fortunately, the change is good, and it's moving toward a model that's a little bit more user-friendly. Before, we had them logging in 2 times, and one was a paper sheet, and then that paper sheet had to be handled and transferred into another database, like an Excel spreadsheet. So it's online, it's very fast, it's very, very easy, and they're even developing an app, for the smartphone. So it's more instantaneous. And it's less touches on the process. They log in once, and that's all.
Any other questions?
So what we've done in the past is basically an Excel spreadsheet, and it's just kind of kept that way.
We've also used LobbyGuard because when you check in through LobbyGuard, you can basically categorize why you're there, you visitor or substitute teacher or volunteer. But LobbyGuard was not designed to track volunteer hours, and so you end up just with a compromise in the integrity. So if you volunteer for a couple hours and you walk out, you have somewhere else to be. It says you've been there 10, 12 hours when maybe you've only done a couple, and so.
You also mentioned students, so also log them as well if they want to.
Absolutely. It creates a really neat user history, and so whether they are trying to capture hours for National Honor Society or they want to volunteer of their own volition out in the community, it keeps that profile intact. And then it reports out into a really easy to read and shows how diverse maybe their volunteer experience is. So colleges and scholarship review boards can look at that.
Any other comments or questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Broken Arrow Public Schools and Volunteer Tulsa. The total cost to the district is $1,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item under Human Resources, Mr. Ed Fager.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. I have 3 policies tonight that I'm bringing to you for a first reading. The first policy, it's item number 33. This is a new policy titled Parental Involvement or Parent Bill of Rights. It's actually based on a template that was created by the district's legal counsel to meet the requirements of House Bill 1384, which was passed during this most recent session of the Oklahoma legislature. This basically incorporates into law a lot of the things that we've been doing for parents anyway. So we just need to have a formal policy to do that now. As I said, it was based on a template, so we've filled in some information that was specific to Broken Arrow. And so I would expect that since this is their policy, that our legal counsel won't have any issues with it. So,
Mr. Fager, if there are questions, this is a first reading, so then
Yes.
we would take it up at the next board meeting. And
That is correct.
board members could contact you if they have questions, correct?
yes.
All right. Next item.
The next item is a presentation and first reading for some revisions to Board Policy Number 3060, which has to do with educational services for students under Section 504 and also under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. These are revisions that are basically some kind of cleanup of some minor corrections. We are defining a couple of terms, and then we're adding some clarifying language to a couple of the provisions, just so there's no misunderstandings. This information was reviewed by Ms. Rubin and Ms. Coster, and they felt like these changes were needed to just make it a little clearer to our constituents.
And I'm assuming it has already been reviewed by legal counsel, correct?
It is under review right now.
It is under review.
Yes.
So again, if there are questions, then those can be forwarded to you, correct?
Yes.
Are there any comments?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Move to the next.
Okay. The last item I have is a presentation and first reading of some revisions to Board Policy 5230. The policy is currently titled Payment for Non-Contracted Monies for Retiring Employees. It's being retitled to Payment of Accumulated Sick Leave and Vacation at Retirement, just to clarify the subject of the policy. This policy is being revised to align the policy language with language that's in the negotiated agreement, and it pertains to a special pay plan that allows us to pay for accumulated sick leave and vacation at retirement for employees who meet specific criteria. We can pay that money into the 403B plan and avoid certain taxes that are both on the district and on the employee for those monies. Once it's paid into the plan, it is available to the employee to be withdrawn if they choose. So,
Mr. Fager, to make certain, the current agreement or the current practice for the district, that's not in any way as it relates to changing the title of the policy. It's not going to change the practice of the district currently. We are just aligning it to the current negotiated agreement for clarification purposes. Is that correct?
that's correct, and we're making sure that there are not any problems between what the plan language is in the 403B plan that allows us to do this and the language that was in the policy. So before, we had some language in the policy that spoke to having an option to take the money in cash, and that's an option that we need to take out in order to be
So
consistent.
now the individual, it will go into that 403B.
Yes, if
And
they-
then at the time that it does go in there, the employee then can immediately ask to receive that money.
That is correct.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is under operational services.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Bergwall, who's not able to be here this evening. I'm seeking approval of the bid submitted by Risher Fitness Equipment to furnish and install new weight room flooring in the indoor practice facility for the amount of $134,805, and also accept the alternate in the amount of $14,500 for a total of $149,305 with payment from the 2009 bond funds. We solicited bids from 5 vendors, received 2 back, and all bidding was done in accordance with the Competitive Bid Act.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the bid submitted to furnish and install the new weight room flooring for indoor practice facility from Risher Fitness Equipment in the amount of $134,805 plus an add alternate in the amount of $14,500 for a total cost of $149,305 with payment from the 2009 bond fund. All bidding was conducted pursuant to the Oklahoma Competitive Bidding Act. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item under instructional services, Dr. Janet Dunlop.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. The item I bring to you tonight is for a membership to the inaugural TCC K-12 Outreach Center. And what this is it's a new initiative that TCC has brought to area districts, and it is a consortium of experts and practitioners in the areas, specifically places that we struggle to find professional development. With all of the mandates that have been pushed down in the last few years, we've been struggling to try to reach all of the needs that our districts have, especially in some of the smaller districts. So TCC had the idea to bring together all of the experts and practitioners in the area, offer this professional development on their side and with other experts that they will pay for, and we pay a one-time fee. Our fee is based on having unlimited registrations and then 5 on-site trainings. It's $7,500, and it will be paid out of Title IIA money, which is money set aside through title funds to pay for PD anyway. And what this will is it'll provide training, unlimited opportunities to send teachers, administrators, basically any certified personnel to these trainings in areas such as TLE, literacy, STEM, new teacher fundamentals, so for our new teachers, standards and assessments, curriculum, counseling services, RTI, you name it. And so we bring this to you this evening and ask for approval for $7,500 to the K-12 Outreach Center.
This is a great idea. I guess my question would be, as it relates to teacher schedules and what have you, I'm assuming you'll be fairly flexible in the time allotments for teachers so that they could schedule to attend.
They are fairly flexible. Most of it will occur during the day,
So
in
you'll
which
have
we will be able to also use Title II funds. We have allocated some Title II funds to where we can pay for some substitutes so those teachers are able to use that service.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
One comment I have is, I guess doing things like this and investing in something like this directly associates or answers maybe one of the questions that came up on the survey about attending maybe workshops, conferences, and other things like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. One of the problems with attending workshops and conferences is they're not always available in the Tulsa area.
Mm-hmm.
And so the amount of money it costs to send staff members to conferences when they're in other locales, it's not feasible with the amount of money that we have to spend on professional development. So anytime we can bring experts together in this area and only have to pay for sub costs, it's huge.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the 14-15 membership contract between the Broken Arrow Public Schools and Tulsa Community College for the K-12 Education Outreach Center, providing quality teacher professional development in the amount of $7,500. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Next item, Ms. Shannon Turner.
Hold on, Cheryl, I'm dead here.
Okay.
You keep it up. Okay.
Are you ready for me? Okay. President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, I'm here tonight to ask that you approve an agreement between Learning for Life and Broken Arrow Public Schools. Just to give you a little detail about what that is with the Boy Scouts of America. They are giving us a 50 license for a program called Explore to work with the Margaret Hudson program. This is a program where the students over there will be able to learn more about careers, maybe something that they would like to do with their life, leadership, character ed, actually get to do some mentoring and go out into the community and try on some hats, if you will, in some different careers.
Any questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agreement between Learning for Life and the Broken Arrow Public Schools. There is no cost to the district. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Next item, under Administrative Services, Ms. Melinda Knight.
Good evening, Dr. Mendenhall and board members. Tonight I'm here seeking approval for the varsity cheer team to attend the National High School Cheerleading Championship in Orlando, Florida, February 5th through the 9th at the cost of approximately $1,200 per person, paid for by the Cheer Booster Club. The UCA National Cheerleading Championship is considered to be the most prestigious championship in the country. It's held at Walt Disney World Resort, and it is nationally televised on ESPN and ESPN2.
Any comments or questions?
I recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the overnight student activity for the varsity cheer team to attend and compete at the National High School Cheerleading Championship in Orlando, Florida, February 5th through 9th, 2015, at a cost of approximately $1,200 per person paid by the Varsity Cheer Booster Club. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next
luck. Good luck.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. Ken Ellett.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, School Board. I've got 3 items tonight. The first item is a contract with BOK. They have invited our boys basketball team to come back and play on Saturday against Owasso. Owasso is the team that we'd actually be playing the Friday night before that. And what we're going to do, if you approve this, is go ahead and play on Friday the JV girls game, the JV boys game, and the JV varsity girls game, and then also play a varsity wrestling match. We are supposed to wrestle Spolpa that night, and we thought we'd make it a doubleheader and something different. And it's a great opportunity for our kids to go play at a great venue, and would ask your approval on that contract.
Any questions or comments?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and BOK Center for the Broken Arrow High School varsity boys basketball team to attend the BOK Center High School Hoop Showcase. BOK will pay the district $1,000 plus $3 per ticket sold by the school. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
My next contract is for the annual trip for the wrestling team to go to Ohio. Cuyahoga Falls, I believe is how you pronounce that. And this is a great trip for them. They've done it several times. At approximately $600 per person to go to this event. It is the week before testing, so they won't be missing any testing. They miss 2 days of school, Thursday and Friday, and then they get back on Sunday. So it's, you know, when you go on these kind of trips, you're hoping that it'll pull your kids together and do those kinds of things. And our softball team just got back from going to Colorado where they won 6 games in a row, and I think Coach Kane would be the first to say that trip did exactly what we wanted it to do, and I know that's what the wrestling team hopes this trip to Ohio will do. So would ask your approval on that as well.
Any comments or questions?
Recommend approval. Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the varsity wrestling team to attend and compete in the Ironman Invitational Wrestling Tournament in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, December 11th through the 14th, 2014. The trip will be at a cost of approximately $600 per student, and the Wrestling Booster Club will be funding the trip. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Ms. Kelly, you made me feel better about pronouncing that one.
I know it. That's a little tough.
My last contract is a contract with a company called Anything Weather, and this is a company that we have actually used for the last couple of years in a very minimum way. We have given them several coaches' names, and they provide notification on lightning strikes and storms. And over the last couple of years, we found it to be very reliable. The way that we've been doing it the last couple of years, it's kind of expensive because I don't get to do all of our coaches. And the thing that this should be so good for is when the 8th grade team's out practicing, or another team, soccer's out practicing, and they don't have all the people and services that we have at a varsity football game. And it'll give them an opportunity, and we found over the last couple of years that they do very reliable. It's real-time alerts, and and when we did that, it cost us approximately $1,500 a year to do it with some of our coaches. Well, they have a program where they upped it up to $2,900, which is a little bit more, obviously, but we can get all of our coaches on it. And also, we can take every elementary school and every middle school and the freshman academy and the high school, and they can have 5 to 10 personnel from those sites on this service as well. So if they're out on the ground, the playground, or they've got a trip planned somewhere, they not only can get these alerts, they can call a number and get very accurate forecasting for where they're going to. So from a safety standpoint, and the other thing I like about it is when they send you, it says, you know, lightning is 8 miles away, lightning is 7 miles away. It tells you clear the field, time to take cover. And it also sends you another one that says 30 minutes have passed, it's now clear to go back out, which it doesn't leave anything for the imagination. It's here's what we need to do. So I'd ask your approval on that as well.
I'd entertain a motion.
Recommend approval. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Anything Weather Communications, Inc. Total annual cost of the district is $2,995. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Dr. Rick Dale.
President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, first item for tonight is a motion to vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the overnight student activity for Pride to attend and compete in Bands of America national competition, which will take place between November the 12th and the 16th at an approximate per student cost of $770 paid by Activity Fund 820.
Questions?
Just one quick question. Was it 770 or 780?
It's 707. It's an approximate cost.
Approximate cost. All right.
So the school's paying for this?
It's paid for by student accounts. They fundraise for those costs.
Recommend approval. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve overnight student activity for the Pride Band to attend and compete in the Bands of America Grand Nationals in Indianapolis, Indiana. It will take place November 12th through 16th, 2014, at a cost of approximately $780, paid for by the Activity Fund 820. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is a motion to vote and approve or disapprove a new agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Kelly Morgan to provide technical services to the high school choir program at a cost to the district of $200. She will be providing digital recordings that they use as a rehearsal aid for all state choir auditions.
Any questions?
Recommend approval. Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the new agreement between the Broken Arrow Public Schools and Kelly Morgan providing technical services to the high school choir program. The total cost to the district is $200. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Last item for me on the agenda is a motion to approve or disapprove a new agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Emma Cantrell to provide technical services for the high school choir program at a cost of $200. Same sort of technical services.
Any questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the new agreement between the Broken Arrow Public Schools and Emma Cantrell providing technical services to the high school choir program. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
I'm sorry, not Mr. Allen, Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item under Business Services, Ms. Donna Dollahan.
Good evening. Tonight I bring you a request to have new guidelines for the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy. Currently there is a National Honor Society sub-account at the Academy. Freshmen are considered under the National Junior Honor Society account. So we are requesting this account be established and the transfer of the funds from the National Honor Society account to the National Junior Honor Society account.
Any comments or questions?
Semantics, huh?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the Freshman Academy Guidelines Account 897, National Junior Honor Society, and transfer of funds from Account 896, National Honor Society. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
My next item is a request for some additional fundraisers for the high school, Sequoia Middle School, Broken Arrow Academy, and Wolf Creek Elementary as presented.
Any questions on these?
No. Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the requested fundraisers for the school activity funds. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Luann Goodacre.
Good evening. I'm asking for your approval tonight to renew CC's Pizza delivery daily at the secondaries and weekly at the elementaries in the approximate amount of $275,000.
Any questions?
A lot of pizza.
It's a lot of pizza.
What's that paid from? I mean, general fund, I guess?
No.
Child
Child
Nutrition
Child
Center,
nutrition?
yes.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the renewal of CC's Pizza for daily deliveries to secondary sites and weekly deliveries to elementary sites in the approximate amount of $275,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Kathy Metavallis.
Good evening. My first item tonight is to request your approval of change orders from August 7th through September 4th, 2014, showing a decrease of $90,378.98.
Any questions on these?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the change order reports for general fund, cooperative fund, building fund, workers' compensation, bond funds, gift funds, and child nutrition fund for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Next item is to request your approval of encumbrance orders totaling $4,293.36.
Any questions?
No.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the encumbrance reports for all funds for 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, we have tonight the estimate of needs for your consideration. Basically, after the board the board approves this tonight, then we will publish this information in the local newspaper and then present that to the excise board for Tulsa County for their consideration to be approved by October 1st. So this is a standard event that we do every year that goes through what the transactions of the previous year to establish the appropriations for the next year. This is not the budget itself, but the maximum amount of appropriations that we have available to us to utilize for the budget. The budget is required to be presented and approved by the board 45 days after the October 1 date, so probably you'll be seeing that at the November board meeting once that has been approved. I do want to acknowledge Natalie and Kristen Stevens. They are the ones that actually generated this report from the work papers to this point. And part of that process is to go through to make sure it matches the tape that is sent to the state on our revenue and expenses, as well as set us up for doing the CAFR. So it's not just this document that you see before you. The highlights of the estimate needs are that in the general fund, our total appropriations are right at $121 million. Then in the building fund is $6.3 million. Excuse me, for the first year, you see the co-op fund, which is about $53,000. That's where we received that one-time grant with the University of Tulsa, and we were required to put that in the co-op fund, so that will be expended for this year, and you won't see that again moving forward most likely. And then child nutrition at the $10.5 million. With established of this, the sinking fund rate will be 29.5 mils. And this has already, as a preemptive, we send this to the company that monitors all the tax rates across the state, that does that for public service. We've already sent that to them, and they've already come back and said, you know, that the sinking fund looks good to them. So we're ready to go to the excise board.
Any questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the estimate of needs for the 2014-15 school year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
The next item you have is as you're well aware, we established through negotiation a couple of years ago the reimbursement for certified staff to get their advanced degree, and part of that was to begin the implementation for support personnel. So what we're bringing tonight is that recommendation for the support personnel tuition reimbursement plan. Just quickly over that, this will officially, for the first reimbursement, will start in the second semester. There is a process where the support personnel will submit an application to be approved. What we don't want to happen is someone to assume that what degree they're pursuing is going to be approved in the tuition plan and it not be because of what they've chosen, and then they're out those funds. So they will submit, get approval, and then they will be able to begin getting reimbursement in the second semester. Also, what we tried to do was acknowledge when we went out to the different departments. Mrs. Armstrong went out and had conversations with a lot of the different individuals, and one of the things that would come up would be, what about additional licensure or other things, not just college hours. So the plan that we have does take in consideration that. We've also made allowances for classes at REMA. They're not per hour, they're by a year. So we included in there, we used $120 a credit hour, which is in between NSU and TCC, as a credit hour, or up to a certain amount for a certification, or in the case of REMA. The only thing that's difference between, that's obviously a difference between the certified and this, but also in order to entice people to participate, we also included a $50 book reimbursement included in the program, hoping that would entice them to say, well, you're covering the majority of my tuition, but books are obviously very, very expensive. So that's what we're hoping to do. We will see how many people participate this. We are also hoping that this is a recruiting tool for us, that you can come to work here in some of our positions, be able to get paid, go to school, and get reimbursed. Particularly, we're encouraged that hopefully we can get some individuals who want to drive a bus, so they could drive a bus, go to school, come back, drive a bus, and have somewhat the best of both worlds. So something we've been working on. Hopefully, we'll be able to see the fruits of that very quickly.
Any questions?
Great plan, great idea. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve a provision to allow support personnel to receive tuition reimbursement. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Okay, the final item we have is for the board to ratify the negotiated agreement. As you heard tonight from Ms. Cook, that we had a success rate on the ratification on the teacher's end of 96.5%. So we're recommending to the board to approve that. I just would also like to commend Ms. Cook and Ms. Westman on the negotiations. It's a two-way street, obviously, and so we have a lot of conversations, and we're able to discuss and come up with options on a lot of things. And so it's very successful, and those conversations are ongoing. They meet monthly with Dr. Mendenhall, so there's just a lot of positive communications, and hopefully things get worked out as we progress. So if issues come up. So I would entertain any questions that you have. But basically what was approved, as I've discussed before in executive session, what was presented and approved is what we discussed in executive session with no changes. So
Any questions?
I would just like to commend everybody in that whole process. It's really exciting to see that, you know, you can come together, you collaborate, you come to a great agreement. And I mean, having a 96% ratification, I mean, that's incredible. And so it's impressive, and I appreciate the work that each and every one of you do in that. Thank you. Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the ratification of the negotiations agreement between the district and the Broken Arrow Education Association for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item is new business, and seeing that we don't have any new business, we're going to move to the next item, which is to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.